Are you leading in a multicultural organization and you want to get better at connecting with your senior leaders and stakeholders, especially when you're in a virtual meeting and you are meeting with people all around the world? If that's your situation, you want to get better at that, multicultural communications, and this is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. There are 5 tips on how you can improve your multicultural communications in the workplace. This is especially if you're a leader, a senior executive, or you are desiring to level up into directorship or even C-level. How can you lead better? How can you communicate in ways that people understand? Right, so this is what I want to provide for you, a little bit of a distinction around the word culture. What does culture mean? When it comes to culture, if I were to ask 100 people in the room, what is culture? How do you define culture? I might get 100 different responses. So intuitively, what this means is that intuitively, we kind of know what culture means, but when it comes to articulating culture, we get a sense of it, but if we don't understand the distinctions around it, how can we become better at multicultural communications? So here's what this means. When it comes to culture, culture is an observable and describable group of behaviors, actions within a group. So these are words that we use to describe actions, and they are common actions within a group. So that's why we also have individual culture. You have your own culture, I have my own culture. And our individual culture at the individual level, this is where it describes our personality, our characteristics, and our traits as well. And that's why when you have groups and leadership teams, you can't really say, well, we have a culture of honesty or we have a culture of integrity. You can't really say that. It's not really precise or accurate because it's around actions. Culture describes actions. And so when you look at someone's actions, the culture derives our actions. The words that describe a culture derive what our actions are, the behaviors as well within a group, and they're observable, they're describable. And so that's what culture really means. So then when we talk about cross-cultural communications, cross-cultural means that now you're having interactions, transactions, and communications from people who observe and who exhibit different behaviors, different actions as a result of their groups than from where they belong. And so when we're having these interactions, that's why it's important to understand more about them so that you can communicate in accordance to their values and in ways that they can understand and receive it as well. And that's what I want to share with you today. So at the end of this video, we're going to come up with 5 very key strategies and techniques as well on how to improve your communications when it comes to having cross-cultural communications. So if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe to my channel. Ring that bell down below as well because every single week I release videos on this topic and so much more. So let's go. Let's talk about the 5 ways. The first way to improve cross-cultural communications is to, number 1, connect to transcend biases. What does that mean? We all have biases, and some of you have heard them talked about as cognitive biases, but we all have biases. We all make assumptions about other people. We make assumptions about why people do what they do, and why and how, what words we use to describe other people's actions. We all have these biases. So when it comes to connecting, when we have these biases, we are tending towards communications that are transactional. Transactional is kind of like touch and go. It's just in that moment, when I need you, I want to talk to you, and then that's it. It's not about long-term. Transactional is just one transaction. And the problem with transactional communications is that the aim of that moment of connection with that individual is just for the moment, and we're not interested in, we're not thinking about longer-term relationships. We're not thinking about potentials for other opportunities in the future. And that's what transactional means. And when we are in transactional, in communications, this is what opens up and further can progress more biases. So here's what it means to connect to transcend biases. Instead of focusing on how is this action different? How are their differences going to stand in the way of me achieving my goals? Or how are the differences going to create conflicts? How are their differences? How do I need to get them to see things from my perspective? Instead of focusing on those things, this is more about putting the focusing on, well, how am I going to serve them to the highest values? And make sure to see that how are their differences as well going to enhance our abilities together to work towards a common mission? How are the differences going to enhance? Because when it comes to genuine growth and genuine progression and productivity, that happens, maximum growth and productivity happens at the intersection of both challenge and support. It happens at the intersection of both sameness and differences. So how might our differences further refine our actions and further refine our common mission as well and how we achieve it? So this is a different perspective. Now we transcend biases. And that in those moments is just simply to focus on how can I become my best self in every transaction, in every communication that I have with them. How can I be my best self? Right? So that is the first way, most importantly, to connect to transcend biases. The second way to improve cross-cultural communication is to gain greater precision. So what does precision mean? When it comes to communication precision, there are two layers to be more precise. One is on the spoken word and the other one is on the body language. Spoken words, these are the actual words that are audible to your audience, the ones that are spoken, sounds coming from your voice, produced from your voice, and they receive it and they interpret it, and that's what they respond to, those spoken words. When it comes to spoken words, different cultures place different emphasis on certain words. For example, some cultures have different words to relay more formal communication versus more informal communication, and sometimes formal communication is more appropriate for that moment in time. And whereas still some other cultures perceive some body language, some gestures as offensive, and some gestures are more appropriate when it comes to senior leaders. And another example could be that there are certain cultures that make a differentiation between what words are more appropriate to use for senior leaders versus what words are more appropriate to use when referring to more junior managers. And these things are very important because absent this level of precision, right? If you're absent this level of precision, what could happen at best is just a miscommunication and a misunderstanding. But if this was to be escalated, at worst, it could lead to often, individuals becoming offended or individuals misinterpreting it to a fact that they are offended and not wanting to move forward in collaboration or not feeling that there is the right fit. So that's the importance of having this level of precision. So you're somebody listening to this right now and you're realizing that yes, there is a difference between different cultures and the way that they communicate, difference between formal and informalities, difference between body language, difference between the way that they describe things, and it's causing a lot of communication. If you're really seeing this and you're somebody who really desires to achieve these outcomes for your career so that you can have more meaningful work relationships to senior leaders and stakeholders, if you're somebody who's serious about having these outcomes, then I invite you to work with me. Every single week, I meet with executives, directors, just like you, where we are working towards how do we become more precise in our language? How do we understand how to communicate across cultures that are tremendously different from our own? And how do we navigate through these complex landscapes of communication where they have different communication styles? They have different cultural backgrounds and therefore different perspectives that are born out of their perspectives. So how do we navigate through that? And every single week, I give some deep level training to show you how to produce that outcome and how to be effective in it, how to be professional as well. So if you're serious about having this support, then I invite you, below this video, on the description below, there is going to be a link. And that's really an application. And someone from my team or myself, we're going to get on that initial call with you and just to explore whether or not it's the right fit. And of course, if I can truly help you in your situation. And if we can, then I'll be delighted to walk you through the steps and to help you elevate your communication and give you that executive presence that you desire. So if that's you and you're serious about it, then click the link below and I look forward to seeing you on the inside. The third way to improve cross-cultural communications is to develop others' awareness. Others' awareness. This is the opposite of self-awareness. And we all know what self-awareness entails. An awareness of self. This is the opposite. It's an awareness of others. See, there are two biggest mistakes that I see executives and directors making when it comes to communicating effectively across cultures. The first biggest mistake that I see them making is that they're making assumptions around what other people may behave, how other people behave based on their own cultural upbringing. And the second biggest mistake that I see is making assumptions and believing stereotypes based on media portrayals. So this is important to do the research. What is that culture? What are the differences exactly? And understand what are the exact and real differences in cultural communications. And it's also that you can analyze decisions better together. And so that you can make decisions better together on certain projects that you are moving towards. That's all the purpose of this for. So make sure that you are doing your research so that you have the facts and without judgment. So this is developing others' awareness. The fourth way to improve cross-cultural communication is aim for what's meaningful. Right? Aim for what's meaningful. So when you extract what's meaningful out of that interaction, out of that relationship, what you're doing is you're attracting the meaning. And if you really understand the word meaning, what it means is having an appreciation for pairs of opposites. Because in any relationship, at work or in personal life, life gives you both. Relationships give you both. You're going to have both challenge and support. So it's not about hoping for support and wanting to avoid challenges. It's not about hoping for acceptance and wanting to avoid rejection. It's really extrapolating the meaning behind it. And the greatest meaning, the greatest fulfillment comes at the intersection of both. And so when you aim for what's meaningful, this is about embracing both that relationships will give you, but also knowing that what comes along the way is not going to be in the way of achieving your goals. It's not going to be in the way of achieving your mission. And it's not in the way of being able to be productive. Everything is on the way. And so when you extrapolate meaning, this is what allows you to transcend to greater levels of appreciation of others for who they are. And that's ultimately, every individual desires to be appreciated for who they are and desires to have embracing of differences. So when you extrapolate what is meaningful, it also allows you to show up differently and allows you to appreciate others for the difference that they bring, because you can see how these differences can help further refine your craft, refine how you analyze situations together, and make better decisions together in collaboration as well. So that is why the fourth way is to aim for what's meaningful instead of wanting to avoid rejection or wanting to avoid miscommunications or wanting to avoid challenges to your perspectives, because life is going to give you both. So find the meaning of it, which is really an intersection between those pairs of opposites. The fifth way to improve cross-cultural communications is to be open-minded. When you are open-minded, this is what allows you and really does help you to hold the judgment between what's right versus what's wrong. Because when it comes to behaviors, cultural behaviors, there is no right or wrong. It's when we label things as right or wrong that there is difficulties in relationships. It's what extrapolates conflicts. It's what creates biases and enforces them. So being open-minded will allow you to hold that judgment between right and wrong, and embrace the intersection of the two. So I have a video coming up next, so stay tuned. It's right after this. And this video will go into a deep dive on how to be open-minded. How do you train your brain to become more open-minded? It's coming up next. I'll see you there.